So I was in London recently, taking in all of the sights and smells, and I started thinking about how impressive the infrastructure behind the tube is. It creates such an efficient way to traverse such a large city that it starts to make you wonder, what type of long-term thinking made this possible? So today, that's exactly what we'll explore, answering the question of why can't we build mega projects anymore? At least not the type that sit within the domain of traditional public infrastructure. For thousands of years, humanity is obsessed over a concept called cathedral thinking. It's the audacious idea that you can start a project knowing full well that you will never live to see it finished. The masons who laid the foundations for Duomo di Milano knew for a fact that they would never see the roof being built. The Romans built aqueducts to last 500 years, not 5. The Panama Canal redefined global trade forever. But these projects were not without cost. The Panama Canal alone cost thousands in terms of human lives, as well as over $350 million in 1914. Adjusted for inflation, that's over $12 billion. Cut and cover methods were heavily utilized in the early stages of what we now know as the London Underground. This caused years of chaos in terms of congestion, but it allowed London to build the infrastructure that would help it turn into a global megacity. Fast forward to today, and we struggle to build for the next decade. Potholes struggle to get fixed. We're still waiting on all of these new homes to be built. It begs the question, why is it that the civilization that split the atom and built Wi-Fi can somehow not build mega infrastructure anymore? To answer this question, we can focus on 3 key historical shifts, with the first shift being cost disease. Costs are soaring across all projects. The process of everything from design all the way up to manufacturing is simply at an all-time high. There's an increasing interest in internal rate of return, causing investment cycles to think more towards the short run. In the past, value was a physical asset. Think a bridge or a cathedral. But today, value is mainly focused through that internal rate of return, being heavily used to decide if a project will be undertaken or not. Simply put, if a project won't pay for itself in 10 to 15 years, private capital won't touch it. Governments now run like businesses, applying the same short-term logic to things that should be viewed as 20 plus years foundation. Risk aversion is big, but what about the risk of doing nothing for too long?
Then I'll tell you what changed my whole life when I finally discovered it's all risky. The minute you were born, it got risky. If you think trying is risky, wait till they hand you the bill for not trying. If you think investing is risky, wait till you get the tab for not investing.
On top of this, we also see the maintenance costs of our current infrastructure ballooning every single year. We've also just spent too much of everyone else's money. With cost of living soaring, it's very easy to see why there's not much left for us to yield through taxation. At least there's not much left before we start to cannibalize the quality of life of the people. The fruits of labor can't be squeezed anymore. The next key shift that we've witnessed is the death of consensus. Major infrastructure takes 10 to 20 years to complete. However, the political cycle is only 4 to 5 years for many nations. The logic then becomes, if a politician starts to build a bridge today, it's going to be his political opponent cutting the ribbon tomorrow. The result then becomes that governments prefer quick wins, thinking of things like tax breaks or maybe small subsidies over monumental long-run projects that require strategic political thinking. In 1884, if you wanted to build a tunnel, you would simply buy the land and start digging. However, now we have a process called NIMBYism. Not in my backyard. This is where local opposition can stall projects for decades in court, often leading to projects that disproportionately disrupt poorer neighborhoods over time. The third key shift that we face is the modern incentive infrastructure. Previously, risk-taking was much more common. For investors and engineers, failure was a known risk. Employees often worked with nothing but a pencil and measuring gear, a far cry from the modern economy that we have today. In times of old, governments or syndicates hired their workers directly, and physical assets were measured in steel, coal, or transit. But fast forward to today, we are far more risk averse than we've previously been. And anytime that we do see major risks being taken, they often invoke the tragedy of the commons, with people not really being held accountable when things all go wrong. We also see the bloating of costs and consultation. Costs often balloon with no real accountability, resulting in increased borrowing and continued value extraction, even while material wealth seems to grow. Finally, wealth is now measured by very speculative means, the type which make honest auditing difficult, while the real wounds show themselves on the physical side of the economy. On one side, you have the capital markets, stock prices go up, valuations go up, ching, ching, ching. Then on the other side, you have the, let's call it the practical economy, where people live, where the things that don't necessarily pay the most bring serious, real, powerful value to people's lives. That is not being rewarded, and it's creating this massive difference where you see a giant honor class versus just about everything else.
Caused his health problems. After a lifetime of drinking it, he has a huge tumor on his throat.
Quand on est en train de travailler à Kitowe, là on cultive les tomates, en train de cultiver, si j'ai soif, je pars puiser de l'eau.
This is having a knock-on effect on quality of living and stifling future prospects, inspiring a sense of nihilism, whether it's about the economy, society, personal hopes, or even structural decision-making. While we've seen throughout history that the economic cycle comes in peaks and troughs, the effects of it are often permanent. So once more, we stand at the precipice, a new type of Gilded Age built on 5-year planning and stock returns. This is allowing us to maintain two different types of global economy. So, how can this change? There isn't enough time for me to really take a stab at that. This video isn't really about the solution. I'm just observing the symptoms of a wider problem. We have to stop with the greed, I guess. Focus on things that give people their wealth back, or maybe do audits. Genuine audits, like really study the cost of all the things that we do. We can only grow more efficient with what we have before we keep on trying to get even more of it, because eventually the jig is up, we all run out of money, everyone decides, you know what, it's just fiat currency, burn the world, and it's all over. And we don't want that to happen, because so many of us will not be okay if that happens. Anyway, it's been your boy Governor T, exploring why we can't seem to think ahead and build long term anymore. Should we even care if that's the case? Interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, you know what that means. That puts you in the flow state. If you want to keep your rank up, it's very simple. You just watch the videos to the end. Be sure to like, leave a comment, subscribe. We're always happy to see the family grow. Flow state.
Come on.